We're joined by Fox News contributor Liz Peek and Heritage Foundation senior economist Peter St. Onge. Liz, do people not understand President Trump? This is his negotiating salvo. One of the things that he wants is a greater military presence in Greenland, a larger, military presence, more bases potentially. He needs permission from negotiating with Denmark and the people of Greenland. This is just the beginning.
Yeah, Dagan, I'm totally on board with President Trump's interest in having a bigger security presence in Greenland, a bigger military footprint. He's totally right that geopolitically and in terms of resources in Greenland, this is a tremendous asset and would be a great addition to the United States. I am not happy that he has gone the tariff route, because I think it sort of undermines the legitimacy, if you will, of his initial tariff rollouts, which had everything to do with resetting the trade table for American companies. And I just feel like, there are other ways to accomplish what he wants to do. And by the way, you may be totally right that this is his opening salvo and that he will roll this back over the next week to the point where he attains sovereignty, more or less, over Greenland in everything but name, which would be fine. But I hope that the tariff thing doesn't continue, because it is very hard for companies to manage the ups and downs of these tariffs. And also, months have gone into creating a EU tariff trade plan, and it would be just really unfortunate, I think, and unnecessary to throw that overboard.
All right, Peter, I'll put that to you. Are you concerned about the president using increased tariffs here? And maybe I'll add, do you get concerned about the threats from the EU? They've got this sort of bazooka plan in mind. I guess they're going to throw a bunch of barriers to the EU market in America's way if these tariffs from America happen. Okay, tariff. Does that concern you?
In short, no. Europe does not have very much leverage here. Fundamentally, they are much more closed to us than we are to them. For a long time, most of our markets have been wide open. Europe has been, drawing up the drawbridge. That's why we have such large trade deficit in the first place. And it means that we are much less reliant on exports to Europe than they are exports to us. So you're already seeing in places like Germany, every single major car company in Germany has already announced they're going to be moving production to the U.S. The air is draining out of the European economy. It's coming over here. Any kind of retribution that they visit on us is probably just going to accelerate that. So Europe, basically, they have to eat whatever Trump puts in front of them. And, I think what's happening with Greenland is a little bit, Europe is like the kid who can't fight, and Trump is trying to toughen them up, right? So when Trump says that the Russians or the Chinese can walk into Greenland and Denmark can't do anything about it, well, guess what? We can too, and Denmark can't do anything about it. So Europe has been using us as an unpaid mercenary for 70 years. These are the wages of that. Indeed, they can't do anything. Trump tells them what to do, and they say, yes, sir. Now, as far as using the tariffs, I think that, one of the issues, this is now before the Supreme Court, and one of the questions is that traditionally the U.S. has used military as a big part of its foreign policy, right, as a way to pressure other countries. What Trump is doing is, instead of using the military, he is using trade. I think that is much healthier. And in terms of, what does that do to companies, and in terms of planning or trying to organize their imports and exports, I think that's a feature, not a bug. Trump is trying to make it difficult so that companies have to move production into the U.S.
Right. Well, President Trump needed to invent a security threat to impose security-related tariffs in case his tariffs get overturned under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act by SCOTUS. Well, Greenland, he just invented one for Europe. Moving on to this, Mitt Tax Me Romney back at it with his hero complex, writing an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal, which is in response to his previous op-ed, calling for the U.S. to tax the rich, writing, quote, "At this stage of life, I'm a great deal more concerned about the future of the country than the size of my tax bill. Okay, so I'm assuming all of his kiddos and grandkiddos, maybe great-grandkiddos, are getting nothing when he dies.
Nothing.
Liz.
Well, look, like most private equity people, Mitt Romney amassed a fortune using basically a great tax break, the earned interest income, because that is how he amassed a fortune. But I think what's really offensive about this, Mitt Romney is a smart guy, and he knows that historically, revenues right now, in terms of what the government is taking in the way of tax revenues, are in line with historical averages. It's spending, Dagan, that is totally out of control. That's what has to change, not our taxes.
Peter, quick last thought on that one.
You know, Mitt is always right in the news stream here. So we're talking about $1.5 trillion of fraud and waste, and Mitt jumps in with tax hikes. The biggest lesson here, I think, is how much the Republican Party has changed. This guy was the nominee in 2012. A lot's changed since then.
Yeah. Stop trying to make Mitt happen, Mitt. Liz, Peter, great to see both of you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.